We'll be starting in. Ooh, did you turn that up? Did you turn it up? Oh, okay. I think it needs to go down some. I had it like at 20. Check. How's that? I think that's good. We'll just wait a minute to see if other folks are going to join us. But I would just sort of preface this by saying this is from a trip in 2022, which was just a little over a year ago. We meant to leave and go over there in 2020, and of course COVID happened and it was postponed. And I was reflecting on how nice it is that we didn't postpone another year, because then we'd really be in difficult straits. So come on in, folks. But I did have a number of folks who said they couldn't be here, who wanted to know if we were going to broadcast it. So I did work at this, and I know that the angle online is just a little bit different for the screen, but it's the best I could do with the cords that we have. It's all carefully mapped out. So all I can tell you is I couldn't do better, but I hope that it's something you can see and experience. I would also say that I think the other people who went on the trip with me would say that it's really special just to be there. You know, it's not like you're going to verify things so much as it's going to be, this is where it all took place. You imagine things in your mind, you see photos, but when you're there and you kind of can hear the sounds and smell the smell of food and hear the people talking, it's so great to do that. So, there are cookies coming, so that's nice. And I would say for me, and I think for other people who have been there too, is a real sort of spiritual journey to do that. So feel free to eat cookies while we're doing this. So we'll get started, and we're going to start in Nazareth, and then we're going to go to Bethlehem, Jerusalem, and then down to Egypt, and that all in an hour, but not no more. So if you have any questions or you have anything, you've been there, you want to add something to it, feel free to do that. So we're starting in Nazareth, of course, which is the home of Mary and Joseph. And this is the front of the church of the Annunciation in Nazareth. And you can see on there, of course, on this, that it's got you've got Mary and you've got the angel. And this church is huge, as you would expect. And it's beautiful. You can see all the intricacies, and that's a stained glass window. And that door is magnificent as well, sort of some of the stations of the cross in there. And some of these will have multiple pictures, but just to try to get you an idea of how big that is, you can see some of the people down below, what this looks like. And then a shot of that door, which is really magnificent, and all the artwork around there. And I'm almost positive that is a bronze door, so solid bronze, so you would not want to have to put it up there. And you can again see just a close-up of some of the intricate artwork that's spectacular. And there's a little bit of a diagram of it outside. Now, if you look past this sign here, I'll try to do some things. You'll notice that through that portico there's artwork. And countries from all over the world chose artists to contribute to those artworks, and so it has the name of the countries, and people have been there too. I mean, it's just all these countries, just about all the countries of the world, and it was spectacular, including the U.S. So, and of course Nazareth was there, but there's Mary. But here are some of them. That is from Brazil, which I thought was one of the most spectacular. And of course, it is usually the theme of the Annunciation when the angel came to Mary. Oh, I don't have any more of those. But inside is believed to be the place where the angel came to Mary with the Annunciation, with the announcement of the birth. And so you can see there in that kind of, even though it's sort of this cathedral that's built all around it, you can see how quaint and preserved that is right there. So that's why they really believe these are the sites, is because they built the cathedral around them, and you can go right there and line up and see it. And it's really quite a quaint, small little place. And it's believed to be actually the home of Mary, of course, the mother of Jesus. And her mother would have been Anna. And there's some more. It's really beautiful. And it's nice that it's, despite all the beauty of the cathedral around it, the actual place where they believe happened is so quaint and well preserved. I mean, it's just stone. So you go there, and even though it's ornate, when you get right up to it, it's pretty humbling as much as it's just, it's very, very simple. So just so beautiful. And then this is looking right in there. And so you can see there's kind of this home cavern, and of course the home is much more stone. So this would have been part of the home there. And of course an altar is around there. And then there's more of this home. And now this is the church. This is actually this is the chapel that's part of that. And then, so they have cathedrals, and then they have chapels. And then, and you can see how beautiful this, and I thought this is spectacular. This is that glass, the stained glass window, that's sort of a pyramid of glass going up, which is really beautiful. Then, as you might expect, St. Joseph's home was not too far away. So they believe this church that's there is where St. Joseph's home was. So you can see kind of Mary and Joseph could wave at each other, and they didn't live very far away. So Joseph is up on the hill, and you show you how much of a home. And this is believed to be the home of Joseph. So it would have been the home later of Mary and Joseph. Okay, so, and very much an archaeological site that's preserved. So you can see here, and you can see here where the cathedral was built above would have been the house of Mary and Joseph. And it probably would have been the home of Joseph's parents before Joseph. And then, of course, Joseph's church isn't quite as big and spectacular as Mary's, right? Which is in keeping, right? But some beautiful, very early, this is very early artwork that's this painting on the wall. And it's right where the part of the house. And then down below, part of the church here are different, just beautiful kind of little, I'm going to say, little chapels almost that stem out from that, which is just beautiful scenes. And then there's a beautiful statue of Joseph, who is, this carpenter. And more of the home. And it's amazing because I guess, despite, and I'm an archaeology buff, I must tell you that I did not realize how much is preserved and going back. And so you can see this is a lot of the home is preserved, not most of it. Because remember, these homes are small, so that actual part right there, that is believed to be their home. Oh. Yep, that's the last one. So now on our journey to Bethlehem. Now, this isn't exactly the route, but what you should know is it was roughly 90 miles from Nazareth to Bethlehem. It would have started at about 1,200 feet above sea level for Bethlehem, goes all the way down to sea level and actually below sea level at the Dead Sea, and then 2,000 feet elevation to Jerusalem. So that's why they always talk about going up to Jerusalem. So the height for Joseph, probably ride for Mary, would have been incredible. And then it's desert, as you'll see, as we go along the way. And right now, of course, the big city wasn't there. But you're going to see some of what a hill country it was. Now, there's no mention of a donkey, as you probably know, or a camel in the Bible. But most people believe that the tradition is that Mary rode a donkey, which would have made sense. Joseph, as a carpenter, probably would have had a donkey to carry all the wooden stuff and all the tools. That would have been part of it. And he probably wouldn't have had enough money for a camel, which would have been the limousine of the day. So it makes sense that it would have been a donkey, and they wouldn't have two. So Mary got to ride the donkey, which, was not a luxury ride, but it's better than walking. And Joseph would have walked, and 90 miles is a long way. 90 miles is a relatively straight way to go from Nazareth to Bethlehem, but we believe they probably went around Samaria. So they actually probably took a longer route than that, slightly longer. So this is just some of the scenes of it today. But honestly, for some of these homes, they couldn't look very much like this back then. I mean, a lot of them live in these stone houses. Now, inside, it's more updated, but you could see what it would have looked like. And I didn't get rid of a lot of them. There's a lot of olive trees, but it's really beautiful. And you can see the kind of this rugged desert terrain. And it actually gets more desert than this. Well, and I'm going to jump forward to Bethlehem because that's the way we went. And I can't reorganize these, but we stayed in a quaint little hotel there. And there's a nice little church in Bethlehem with a star. And it was really beautiful. I couldn't get a shot without the darn telephone wires in there. What are you going to do? I leaned way over the balcony, and there's me smiling. But that shows you the kind of desert terrain that is. I mean, that's serious desert. And because of, get rid of that, because of the lack of humidity, it does feel pretty good most of the time. But it can get hot and cold. And it does actually snow in Bethlehem sometimes. So just some of this beautiful, to me, the way the colors are, it almost seems surreal. And it isn't just the photography. Those who were there, it really is like that. So it's just these beautiful tones of tan and brown and this green vegetation. Now it kind of goes back and forth. This would have been much of what it looked like here, minus the road, which probably was an ancient road. You can see down in the lower left there, but you can see this is all about desert. We're, of course, in a bus, so. But this is what it would look like coming up there. And parts of it are pretty rocky. So really some cliff sides going there. But if you can imagine, without the road there, riding a donkey 90 miles roughly in this, up and down the elevation, seriously, I was happy with the bus. And there's some of the sheep. You could say, hey, the bus doesn't but you're like, man, I'm glad we're in the bus. So, and you can see the sheep right here, sheep and goats on the hillside. And this is some of the Bedouins, they were saying, that lived here. This is like it would have been 2,000 years ago. Honestly, minus you got a little bit of metal, probably got an internet receiver somewhere, but seriously, some of them just live that way. And part of it is, even when some of them go away and come back, their families are so tight-knit that when they go somewhere else, even though there's a lot of modern conveniences, some of them miss being there in that tight-knit family, even though you don't have many of the modern conveniences. Now, they have some tucked away, but let's be real, that's pretty sparse living. So, looking out, and there's that road. That's the road, okay? And I'm kind of going back and forth because we went back and forth. I wasn't able to get the shots all the time, but this would have been down at the Dead Sea level here. Little oasis there. But now, I had to ride a camel. That was on my bucket list. So be sure Mary and Joseph did not get the camel. I just ran the block on it. But they can be pretty nasty, by the way. But I made sure the guy said it was good. But we took turns riding the camels. They were just great. And you got to watch for the camels. When they get up, they always say, it's like you got to watch you don't get thrown off it. But actually, it's a two-way thing. So the first part is they get up with their front legs, I believe it is, right? No, maybe it's the hind legs, right? And you think you're okay. Yeah, you think, it's the front ones, yeah. And then you think you're okay, but then it goes the other way, and you're just like, oh, man, So you got to, hang on the whole time. And there's the Dead Sea, it looks like, which is beautiful, and it is just so full of salt. But this is, and that's below sea level, right? So they went all the way down there. Then, what are you going to do when you've traveled so far? Well, you got to have a shepherd's beer. So we felt like, had to take a picture of that. But anyway, here, and lots of artisans today, this has gone on from generation, probably for thousands of years, intricate carving of the olive tree wood. And it is very well preserved, and of course is thought to be sacred. It is beautiful. So they can just do amazing things, and the families have passed it down from generation to generation. So back up towards, we'll head towards Bethlehem, because I don't know if I can get the walls. There is, of course, the western wall all over the place. We couldn't ever quite figure out exactly. We needed a guide just to go back and forth. But there's a beautiful kind of I think what it probably would have looked like, minus maybe some of the bigger dwellings there or inns. But it is really beautiful. Now this is going towards the Church of the Nativity. And this is, so there's two places where they think Jesus might have been born, okay? But everybody seems to think this is the place where the shepherds were, this is called the shepherd's field, where the angels came and announced that. So wouldn't have had all these walkways at the time, but on over this hillside are where the shepherds are. And then this is the Church of the Nativity here. And of course, all this just beautiful artwork. And this is believed to be one of the two. And I don't know why they have one, but maybe it is. This is number one. This is the most quaint and maybe well-preserved. It's kind of my favorite because it is more quaint and seems out of the way, but that's the way it is now. So we'll talk about the other one later. But down into those two doorways is where the stable is believed to be, at least one of the two places. And for me, it looks very much like what you would think it would be. Which is that stone. Sometimes we see them a lot with wood, but it really be stone and wood, mostly stone. And it would have been very much in keeping with keeping animals in these stone stables. So maybe half cave and half sort of built out, which is exactly what this is. And of course, there's some angels on there, but part of that artwork. The gift shop, which are everywhere, which would have not, they wouldn't have had quite this version of back then, but. So back here, and this is going inside, and it is this, low, kind of, it's cool stone, but it's kind of a warm place. And this is sort of this little altar here, and then this would have been the one place, the manger, where they have a little nativity set up, of course. And then in this place that kind of swoops down, there would have been like where you could put either water or hay or whatever, but it could have been the place where Joseph made comfortable for baby Jesus. So, and you could just sit there and be serene in it, which is beautiful. So they have those little seats kind of, carved in there, but it is quite beautiful. And that is one of the two places. It was my favorite place for it, frankly, because one thing was you could just sort of relax and it wasn't all this commotion. And then this little altar with a star, which I thought was quite quaint. And then this is the shepherd's field, believed to be where the angels came and announced the birth of Jesus to the shepherds, which would have been not very far away, and so, or close by. This is, and then more of the Church of the Nativity. Inside here, and this is within 100 yards, I'm thinking of the manger, right? I'd say about within 100 yards. Of course, this is built up. But it was nice, I thought, that they left that manger place alone, so you can kind of, what does it really look like? The other place is completely different. But this is inside here are just chapels that have different depictions, so it goes out in this kind of octagon way, but with even more chapels all the way around it, and all these different pictures of scenes from the birth of Jesus that are painted, and this beautiful, beautiful dome that you look up that is just, stunning. And again, more pictures of the angels and altar. And it is very, very quiet there. So the second place is here. And this is the other place, Church of the Nativity, in Jerusalem. One place you can go in, and it is a magnificent cathedral, okay? But some of it is kept pretty well preserved. So this is one part of it, and you can see how old it is. If you look, wish I knew. I should have looked that up maybe, but I mean, this has been around for a long, long time. I'm going to say it's a basilica rather than a cathedral-looking place. So this could have been, 400 or 500 BC, or AD rather. And you can just see how beautiful it is. Now, and you can see how it's withstood battles. So there's some of the, bullets or whatever that have come through here. There's Deb. Now, it is ornate. So, if that's not your thing, then it's just that, people venerate it. So, and I think most of this is real gold. So some of it was taken down. So this is kind of overwhelming. But here's the thing. When you go down to where they believe Jesus was born here in this second place, they do strip away all this. So the cathedral was built around where they thought it were to be, okay? So that's one of the things people say, well, they had a cathedral and they threw this in. No, this is, it was built around where they thought this place was, one of the places that was venerated. And you go down into this, you have to kind of walk down in there. And then you kind of go back in. I don't have a picture of this, but this is where the star is where they believe Jesus was, the second place they believe Jesus was born. And people kneel down there, as I did, and everybody on our tour did. Easier to kneel than to get up. And in order to touch that spot, you've got to be down on your knees, which I think is very appropriate. And it is right there, even though you have that beautiful ornate cathedral around you, and in that spot right there is pretty quaint. So both of them are beautiful. This is the one that more people go to. I mean, it's just, we had to wait in line for, say, an hour or so, I think, and this part of it too. And then they're showing us that parts of this is so old that this right here, this flooring was put over top of this, so that I think it was, I'm going to say, I think around 200 AD, that this kind of stonework was put together. So part of this cathedral, it may even be earlier than that, and they can tell that by the artwork. So if you look at the art there, how they use certain squares and the tile, and the reason this was put over top was because it was wearing down. But all that intricate artwork, they can date, and so this wasn't like they put it up in 500. This was really, really early. And so they built all this around it, and they opened them up so we could see it, which was very nice. And that gives you a little more work of this tile. But you can see the kind of that really small square tile. They give us a lot of information on that, but they know from the artwork and the way it's done, it was extremely early. So a little bit more of that. And then this is another chapel adjacent to that. So they have some different chapels in that huge cathedral. And some of them are pretty simple, and which is nice. And this is I thought was just a beautiful stained glass of the angel coming to Joseph. And a tribute to Mary in there. And then this is another part of that cathedral. And that's looking out in the plaza. And there was, fortunately, room at the inn for us at the Angel Hotel, which was, nice. That's looking out across. Of course, this is the Dome of the Rock right there. That would have been where the part of the original temple was, or the rock, and which is venerated by Jews, Christians, and Muslim, believed to be the rock where Abraham was going to sacrifice Isaac, also believed to be venerated to be the place where God first formed people out of the dust of the ground, and then very, very important. Now, this is the Church of St. Anne in Jerusalem. St. Anne is The mother of Mary, yeah. So this would have been where she was raised. So the other place in Nazareth would have been Mary's home, where St. Anne raised Mary with her husband. And then this would have been where they believe St. Anne was born in Jerusalem. And it is a beautiful cathedral with incredible gardens. And one of the things about it, you can see, and there's a dove for the Holy Spirit. But when you go in here, it's pretty simple. And one of the features of St. Anne's Cathedral, I don't know if it's a cathedral or church or whatever, but is the acoustics are incredible. So if you walk in there and you say something, it just sort of echoes through there. And so in order for us to really experience that, we sang a song, which was really, really beautiful. And so it echoes, and you can just hear, it just like magnifies it. So you can ask Lloyd and Deb and others who were there. It was really a special moment. And it is this kind of simple but beautiful thing. So they didn't design it with those kind of acoustics, but because of that, like I said, not quite octagon, but that kind of square is the wrong word for it, but this shape, and because of that high dome, it's just unbelievable. The sound just echoes in a good way there. And then there's more on St. Anne. And then this is going out there. So next to, this isn't really part of this story so much as it is part of the story, but one of the greatest discoveries of the 20th century was right there next to St. Anne's Cathedral, which was the Pool of Bethesda. So for a very long time, people were saying, well, the Gospel of John is too theologically eloquent, if you will, to be true. It had to be just sort of pouring stories into theology. And as archaeology has gone on, they found over and over that John's gospel is incredibly accurate in all the details. The greatest discovery was right here. People were saying, well, John's gospel can't be true because there is no Pool of Bethesda, which is one of the 7 main stories of John. And but then this massive thing, and it says Pool of Bethesda. So it's just like every time someone says something like that, it's like the archaeologists come along, chisel away, and so this whole thing was unearthed, and this is immense. So it was, because of the wars and what have you, some of these things have been folded in, but you can see this Pool of Bethesda, the pillars, and there's an archway that says Bethesda. So it's like, in your face, John says. Anyway, so John goes, I know what I'm talking about. I may be 90 when I wrote it, but you know what I mean? So more of the Pool of Bethesda, which is amazing architecture. So you can imagine all this surrounding. And then there's a Wailing Wall, which Mary and Joseph, of course, would have seen as they went to Jerusalem. And then here's some of the wall here. So as you probably recall that when Jesus was born, then there were 2 moments when they went to the temple in Jerusalem, we believe. So the first was on the 8th day for circumcision. And next was later when Jesus would have been given his name the 30th day. So roughly in there, they would have come this way. And along the way, well, the Wailing Wall again, but there's also these pools. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. I'm sorry. I was going back here. And this is a tremendous archaeological site here too. So there are these pools along the way where they would have cleansed themselves. Part of where we get baptism from, John's baptism. So, and this is immense, I got to tell you, and incredibly well preserved. So, and there's some of those places to bathe, the ritual bathing. Oop. So the next part is Herod, of course, hearing about from the Magi that a Savior, more importantly for him, a king, a new king, a different kind of king was being born. And so this is the Herodian, which is Herod's palace. And Herod was trying to, evil, egotistic guy, did horrific things to people and everybody, including his own relatives, but he had this palace built. And then, when he knew he was going to die, eventually he made plans for him to be buried there and for the entire thing to be covered with dirt. And so for a long time, people didn't know where it was. And this is mountain. So this is part of it. And you can still see part of it covered in dirt, but they unearthed this, and we got to experience what this was like. So this is up at the top of the Herodian. You go down into these tunnels, or staircases, it would have been at that time. Whoops. And the architecture is pretty amazing. Not right here, it's not. Well, that's what it looks like there. But all that was filled in. You can see it's like this mountain, and it has a little theater coliseum there on the hillside. And that's on the glass looking out. And he would have been up on this mountain that he built the mountain, then built the palace, then had it covered up. What a guy. But that's looking at it right there. And only part of it is unearthed now. But you can go down to... Oh, okay. So... And then last but not least, from there to Egypt. So obviously, and that's the, not everybody went all the way up this. It was a workout, by the way. That was shaking her head no. I went, I gotta tell you, I took some breathers along the way, but it was a climb. So no golf carts allowed either. So looking out from there. Then we know, of course, that Mary and Joseph, hearing the news that Herod was after them, were warned by the Magi, left to go south to Egypt. And this is what, you talk about more desert. So we don't know when that was. It may have been, some people say it was when Jesus was 3 months. Some people say 2 years, but somewhere between 3 months and 2 years, we believe, because of different kind of references, but none of which are really concrete. Because Jesus at that point was referred to as a child and not a baby. A child includes baby. But in any case, it doesn't matter so much as that when Herod made a threat on someone, it was real. He killed and tortured his own relatives. He pushed people off of this palaces into the rocks, and it was just awful. So this is the route they took. And man, it is you thought the other was a desert, and this is a serious, serious desert. Some water along the way. The Mediterranean Sea, the darn bus window, was a problem for some of it, but it's really beautiful, other than the telephone wires. And there you can see the starkness of this desert, and then some of the famous archaeological sites along the way. I'll just kind of go through some of this so we can get down there. But it's interesting that on the way there, by the way, this is where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. So we stopped there. So that was really fascinating. But today, just like 2,000 years ago, and actually 4,000 years ago, you can't go wherever you want to go. You take the road. If you're going south, you take the road. And the same with when it comes to Mount Sinai, and there's a couple roads, like I say, a couple roads, that's what it is, a couple roads that go crossways from east to west, west to east, and then north to south. And it's really easy for them to control security. You can ask anybody who's there. They just have those security points. You go through those security points, and by God, unless you have a helicopter, you're not going the rest of the way. And the other thing is they're connected by these oases, these wells. Now, the wells are very few, so you got to go from well to well. So the route, even though the roads are paved, very much the way they were back then. So we kind of know where this is, and that would have been Abraham, would have been Joseph, Sarah, everybody kind of traveling the same way. So it's very interesting. Obviously, this is different, but welcome to Egypt. There's the border, which is, pretty nice. Yeah, Oasis. I don't know who owns that place, but that was pretty interesting looking. And then there's some of these settlements going in, like the suburbs, in the middle of nowhere, but just on the other side, this is what it looks like, which is immense. And there's St. Catherine. So this is our little oasis, which is kind of fun. I'll just roll through that. But Holy Moses, gift shop run by Moses' people. This was a nice place, I can tell you, in the middle of nowhere. And what was extra cool, and just, oh man, the room was nice. Lloyd and I were roommates for that. But we got to eat at a Bedouin place inside the tent. So I know when you think of tent, you and I, like, we went on vacation when we were little, it was like in a small tent. It was exciting when we finally got a floor in the tent. But these tents, I mean, this is inside the tent, right? It's immense. So there's Deb. She didn't want me to take that photo, but it's pretty comfortable. And look at the tapestries are just like unbelievable. And they, of course, in this place, they got a shop. The tent is the wrong word, but they made all this craft work and garments and everything is just spectacular. And you can see the I'm going to say the roof. They probably have a different word for it, but the top of the tent there. And then they put out a spread for us that was unbelievable. That was real Bedouin food. I wish I could tell you what it was all like, and this is our host. This guy was great. He and his wife and the family. I mean, and he had this lamb roasting like all day out there. Lamb, I forget what else he had, but I mean, it was spectacular. And I couldn't tell you what the rest of it was, but it was good. You can ask anybody. We just this so nice. And that was just a little ways away, but they asked us ahead of time, do we want to do this? And we said yes. Then we're going to St. Catherine's Monastery. And one reason it's nice to include this, there's Lloyd, is that this is St. Catherine's Monastery is partway up the mountain going towards Mount Sinai. Joseph and Mary would have probably gone right past there and were able to look at Mount Sinai, which they would have known was a holy place for them. So this is the pathway up to St. Catherine's, which is about at elevation 5,500, I think it is, right around 5,000 at least. So it's up their ways. And then the monks that live in there have all this irrigation from the water, from the well that comes out of there. So in the midst of all this desert is this well where they're doing all these plants. So this is where people were to go. And what they believe inside St. Catherine's Monastery is the well where Jacob would have gone, right? So, I had a little, oh well, I won't play it. But anyway, it's rugged. And you can see that inside that greenhouse, they've got all kinds of things growing in there too. So that's just outside the monastery. And inside, once you go inside this, which is also a fortress, obviously, we're not going inside, but these guys were on their way to Mount Sinai. And we weren't given the option ahead of time. Some of us were upset, others weren't, but I wanted to go. But people went from St. Catherine's Monastery up the other roughly 3,800 feet to the top of Mount Sinai to see the sunrise. And they started at, I think 4 o'clock in the morning. And people from all over the world, all different faiths too. And it was so amazing because when we got there, they were coming down. They're just starting to come down. They had seen the sunrise and they're coming down. And we're like, what? How come we weren't given an option? So if I ever go back, I want to do it again, hopefully. But it is quite a hike. You have to have a guide with you. You're not allowed to go up there. But I was just moved that, people, every country, every race, every religion, Mount Sinai is a very, very special place. And it was amazing. And I thought very respectful of everybody, too. So me and some of the locals hanging out there. So, and you can't see Mount Sinai from there, but that's the pathway. So it's no easy trek. So back to St. Catherine's Monastery. In here, and you can see in here, Moses, obviously, Mount Sinai, Moses heard the voice of the Lord. And then also, we believe to be the place where the burning bush took place. Now, this bush right here is revered to be the burning bush. And it has a look like none other, is all I got to say. And people say it's hundreds and maybe thousands of years old. And it's by the well, which was Jacob's well, Moses' well, everybody's well, going into that area. So, I mean, that's the well. So it's not like they made it up. It's there. I mean, and everybody had to go there because that's the spot for water. And this is inside that, which is really, and there's that bush again, thought to be the burning bush, but it looks good. And inside, and then here's the well, which is really obviously venerated for people all over the world, and it is a well. There's water. It's covered, so you can't throw stuff in there. And here's some of the artwork that's spectacular. It's right around that well. And then this rock is really interesting because I bought one of these from one of these locals, but it's they call it burning bush quartz, I think. So, and it's only found here. So if you look at it, there is this ancient kind of vegetation, and it's in this rose-colored quartz, and it looks like a burning bush. So I have some on my desk at home. So I said, well, wait, I got to have that. First, I thought they were just selling something in a way, like, well, wait, no, I need that. I got to have that. So I got some from those young men. And then we didn't go. I got to still on my bucket list, but that is Mount Sinai in the distance. Okay. And that's just gives you an idea of how rugged that is. And then down into, so again, Mary and Joseph would have gone this way and experienced some of this. And then some of these wadis, some of these little rest stops, oases, I mean, it's different than it was then, but it's likely in the same place. And the reason being is because that's where the water is. If you're going on there, it's that place or no, I mean, that's it. So, fortunately for me, they have cappuccino today. I doubt if they had cappuccino back then, but who knows? But, it's interesting because the water is so rare and it is beautiful and pure in that part that would have been where they went. So it's easy to kind of trace that out. Here again, you have these people living like Bedouins, but they also have the electricity and the internet lines and everything else going there. So it's interesting. And the guy was telling us, he said that Bedouins' families are one of the highest rates of closeness, and like there's like hardly any divorce or things like that. People just, if they leave to go to college, they come back. They're just that tight-knit and supporting. So, and then I'm going to go through this real quick. We had the oasis here. This is the Red Sea. We got a little cruise on that on this glass bottom boat, and I'll just show you real quickly some of the things here because I have a lot of shots. I'm going to go through them. But this coral, you can't see it, is reddish, and that's where the Red Sea gets its name because when the sun hits it at certain times, it looks red. So there's lots of this coral. They call it brain coral because it looks like brains. I get that. I'm going to just roll through this, which was pretty cool to get to the other parts, but you get them. And that would have been, even though it would have changed, this area would have been an oasis way back when. Now it's, of course, a tourist oasis, but so Mary and Joseph may have come along here, which was probably a good place to relax. Poor Mary, been through a lot, obviously. And then more desert. Oh. Yes, cappuccino. And what I want to get to here, that's the Suez Canal, by the way. Part of that is we really stayed at a really nice resort, I got to tell you. So the pyramids would have been there. They would have seen these pyramids. That's the first pyramid right there, called the Step Pyramid, because it looks like step. And it was really done by tracing the sun. So you can tell what hour of the day it is by those 6 levels, because it goes up to noon and goes back down. So the other ones followed the sun, but not in a little different way. So here's some of the archaeological sites there. I'm going to just roll through the pyramid because it's not about that. But they would have been there when Mary and Joseph came through. So they would have seen this and been awed by it, I would think. Oh, there's a good crew there. And this guy in it. So I'm going to just roll through that and go to and that's a statue of King Tut. So, oh wait, that was Amenities 2, I think. I'm sorry. Right there, which was huge. And that was laying down. That was unearthed. They didn't see that before. So some of the other, that's a smaller Sphinx there. This woman, so we stopped to have a little something to eat. So she's basically making bread the same way they would have 2,000-3,000 years ago. So in this earthen oven, making it, and she was the nicest lady. And this bread, I got to tell you, was really fabulous too. So, I mean, and the reason they did it was so you could see this is the way they made it, and we're still making it today. They served it at the restaurant. And then here's the pyramids. So, I say that because, hang on a second here. It's not about the pyramids this time. Oh, and this lady told us all about papyrus. So, I always thought it was kind of a dry paper, which it is, made from reeds, but the artwork that they make out of it today is worth thousands of dollars. I mean, it can be just easy, but it's preserved. It's so dry in that part of the world, it can last thousands of years. And so she showed us the whole thing, and you can see the intricacy. Everything in there is on papyrus. Oop, I had some more of that, but now I can't see it. Now, this is why we're on the way here. So when Mary and Joseph came to Egypt to flee Herod, then their route is fairly well documented by folks who've lived on, and of course this is the Coptic church, so it would be the Egyptian eastern part of the Christian faith. Sometimes people say, well, Christianity is a Western religion. I'm going to always say, no, it's not. It's not a Western religion. It was cradled in the Near East, and at least half of Christian faith is in the eastern part of the world, including Greek Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, Egyptian Orthodox, Coptic, the whole East. So it's a complete misnomer, that confusion about that. So, and here is, I never realized how intricate, this is a map of what they believe, Mary and Joseph, the route that they took. And there are churches all along the way, churches and chapel all along the way here of them going down, and even the way there and the way down and the way back was different on the way back, which is pretty amazing. And this church is believed to be built on the home where Mary and Joseph first went when they were in Egypt, right here. And folks over there really know what a sacred site is. So this is this Coptic church, Egyptian Christian church, and very simple and profound. And here is believed to be the well where they drank water. And this chapel, right there, you got to wait a while to get in there. And it's really inspiring because you think, we always think of course, we know where Bethlehem, Nazareth is, but they know in the Egyptian people, the Coptic church, these spots are every bit as venerated as Nazareth and Bethlehem. So that Mary and Joseph spent a number of years there, and they believed they had to be hidden from Egyptian soldiers because the soldiers came looking for them. And the Roman soldiers did go down frequently, all the time, to Egypt, right? It was so they were looking for Jesus, and so of course this whole thing wasn't here, but below is the house part, and they believe they put Mary and Joseph into the basement of this church and hid them, and that was the first place that they were. And it's really pretty stunning. And this is the well. I tried to get this to rotate, but I couldn't for some reason. The well which the Holy Family drank from, right here. And again, very venerated. And it is a well. And then this here. Oh, what happened? Oh, I'm sorry, when did that? We're back. Oh, back. Okay, where did I lose it? This is the well. I'm sorry. Thank you. This is the well where Mary and Joseph and Jesus would have drank from, and it is a well. To this day, it's a well. And then this is the basement, basically, of that house where Mary and Joseph and Jesus would have gone and hidden from soldiers while they were looking for them. Can't make that up. I mean, that's... Yeah, I think that is, the last thing is more archaeology. So they're able to dig down there, and they don't want you in there, but they can look down through different parts. And I wish I could tell you exactly what was in there. If Lloyd and Deb can, I'm open. But you can see this, and then, of course, it became a church. And that is a relic here, but I cannot read what it is, so... I think that is some kind of a wine press right there. It is. It's a wine press. And then some of this artwork. And then nearby, also synagogue. Newer than that, but we also went in this church here. And end of the journey there, Nile River. But any questions or things that I could answer? I would just say that it's very moving to be there. We were busy all the time, but we did get some moments of stillness, which I always like to process because we saw so much. And just to reflect and to pray and to kind of listen to God's whisper. But it is amazing to look at that. I think the most surprising thing to me was to see how detailed was the believed journey of Mary and Joseph and Jesus in Egypt. He would here, on the way back, this way, and they all have little spots to be venerated. And of course, the Egyptian people know what it is to, have a sacred site. So, and it's not like it started in 500 A.D. I mean, it started, this, you're talking about these sites are venerated very, very early after Jesus' death, and resurrection. So it's not some people, let's do this. It's like, man, this has been around for forever. You can see from the architecture how old this is, and what they did was built some things on top of that. But you can look back and see these old architectural sites and to witness how old it is. Just like some of that basilica, they know from the granite, it's like from 200 BC roughly or earlier than that. So I forget what they call that tile, but it's a particular kind of tile. So anyone else from the trip wants to add anything? Lloyd.
Yeah, I couldn't help but be especially moved when you stood in a place where you know for a fact Jesus stood.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. It's a feeling. And like in the threshold of the Mary Magdalene's home, okay, Jesus was there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say, of course, we're all deeply grieved by the conflict that's over there right now. But when we were over there, and I think the majority of people, there were people of different faiths, and of course they negotiated the wall. We wouldn't know kind of what we were doing, when we were doing. But, honestly, we saw a great deal of respect for everybody of different faiths. This is a holy place for Jews, for Christians, for Muslims, other faiths around the world as well. And and our one tour guide was Muslim, and he had a great deal of respect. He didn't really even share that he's Muslim. I just kind of sat down and talked to him a little bit about it from Egypt. But we chatted, and, just a great deal of respect for the holiness of Allah. Of course, Muslims venerate these places too, even though they believe in some texts beyond that. And just a great deal of respect, and I think also Jews and Christians and what have you. So sadness that when you see conflict break out for what's happening now is not a religious thing in my mind, even though it has religious elements in it, but it's not the majority of people. We've found that hospitality over there was tremendous from everyone, and they all took a great deal of pride in the history and the sacredness of all these places. And as I say, one of the most moving things for me again was, to stand there outside of St. Catherine's Monastery and to see people just streaming down who'd gotten up at, 3 o'clock in the morning to begin a pilgrimage at 4 o'clock in the morning to see the sunrise on Mount Sinai was just amazing. And as I said, all nations, faiths coming down because they just said this is a sacred spot. So really, really beautiful. And I'm so glad I did it. Wish I would have done it 30 years or 40 years ago, but I didn't. I am planning on doing 2 more installments, which I didn't do last year because of the situation with my brother getting leukemia. And I want to do one on basically the ministry of Jesus, so the middle part of his ministry, and show you the Mount of the Beatitudes and other places. And then also, I don't know, I think during Holy Week, if I can sustain myself, and then maybe on Wednesday, before Monday, Thursday, is to then do the pathway to the cross in the little pictures too. So you can, hopefully you'll be there for that as well. Well, thank you very much. I promise you'll be out on time. So it's 5 before 7. Thank you for your patience and willingness to engage. And I hope this blesses you. And I hope that you get a chance to go to the Holy Land. But if not, I hope you just enjoy just seeing it, because just being there and sort of touching the sand even just feels so rich, because it just stretches back. It's not like there's this gap and you go back 2,000 years. No, it's been ongoing the whole time. And the tradition has been ongoing from person to person. So thank you very much.